Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. Mae Elise Cannon. I'm the Executive Director of Churches for Middle East Peace. Today is Monday, October 9th, and it's the third day of the war between Hamas and Israel. I wanted to share with you some updates, less updates on the facts. The facts are pouring out of the news sources. They're being updated as we speak. I will give some high-level summaries, but most of all, I just wanted to implore churches, our constituents. Churches for Middle East Peace has more than 30 member communions. We are theologically diverse. One of the beautiful things about CMEP is our broad ecumenicism, that we are diverse as can be. And so we come together in our diversity, and we are united in our commitments and in our policy principles. And those are centered on the idea that all people, all humanity, every single human being's life is of value. And so our policy commitments are centered on the fact that every Israeli life matters and every Palestinian life matters. And so as we grieve alongside of Jewish brothers and sisters and Palestinian Muslims and Palestinian Christians, all of whom have lost loved ones, many of whom are living in fear. Some are wondering if their loved ones are among those who are being held captive by Hamas. My hope and prayer is that we not cause further division, but rather that we value human life in all of its forms. And so Churches for Middle East Peace met this morning. We had our first prayer gathering. We had dozens of people from across our board, from our member communions. We'll be praying again on Wednesday, and we'll be having weekly prayer gatherings that we'd invite you to join us in. In addition to our prayer gatherings this Thursday, we'll be doing briefings where if you have questions, you can ask CMEP staff members. We'll have some experts with us. We have staff members on the ground. In the last few days, I've been in touch with friends in Palestine. I've been in touch with friends in Israel. I'm very grateful to have heard from people that we know in Gaza, to know that they're safe. And so as you're reading the news, and as there are such strong feelings and thoughts and ideas about the things that we're hearing, our hope and our prayer is that there would be first and foremost a de-escalation of the conflict, that the violence would cease, that rocket fire from Gaza would stop, that Israel would stop bombing Gaza, that there could be a ceasefire. We heard this morning that Secretary Blinken posted a tweet that was calling for a ceasefire, but then the tweet on what used to be Twitter and now is X was deleted very quickly. But we hope for a diplomatic solution, and that none of the hostages that are being held would be harmed, but rather could be returned to their families. And so here, in the midst of this great, great tragedy, there is so much that is yet unresolved. And where do we go from here? And so we are praying, we are gathering, we're calling for a de-escalation. Churches for Middle East Peace issued another statement today. The board met and we discussed, and we have been lamenting and praying. So in addition to our grief, we are calling for restraint. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, issued a statement sometime on Monday, Israeli time, and he had 5 points. And one of his points was that still Israel's response is going to be like that never seen before. And our call on the United States is please, please, please deplore Israel to not respond that way, because that would be devastating, not only for the people of Gaza, but also for the people of Israel. And so one of our fears is that this conflict could escalate not only to be between Hamas and Israel, but between the broader Palestinian community in the West Bank. It could extend, as we've seen, just skirmishes on the northern border to Hezbollah and Lebanon. It could extend to Syria. You heard about the United States. President Biden has assured that we have Israel's back and has moved the USS Ford into Eastern Mediterranean. And so heaven forbid that this become a regional conflict or even greater. And so Churches for Middle East Peace is imploring for restraint, de-escalation of the conflict. We're calling for humanitarian access. One of the things that has happened in the last couple of days is that Israel has cut off water, power, and fuel to the people of Gaza. There are 2.2 million people living in Gaza, and I have been there. I've been there a number of times. I have met with humanitarian groups in Gaza. The vast majority of people in Gaza are not militants. The vast majority are Palestinian mothers who just want to feed their children and raise their children where they can have food and education and a hope for a future. I just texted with one of my friends who leads a humanitarian agency, and I heard from him that he is safe. And I told him that I am praying for him and for his children and his families. We've heard reports that already in just the last few days, more than 120,000 people in Gaza have been displaced from their homes. We've heard, in addition to that, that already 20 children in Gaza have been killed. And that's, of course, in addition to the astounding numbers of Israelis. 800 or more Israelis have been killed. The number of deaths of Palestinians is more than 560 Palestinians have been killed. And that's not including the thousands of casualties. If the war does not cease, there will only be more death, more destruction, more grief. And so for the sake of Israel, for the sake of the Palestinian people, for the sake of the Israeli people, may the war be brought to an end. So we'd encourage you, please read our statement, join us in prayer, join us for our briefing on Thursday. Soon we will have some calls to action where you can call your elected officials. Let them know that we don't want the United States to engage in this war and to support one side over the other, but rather that only comprehensive resolutions to the conflict that look at the entire context of the history are going to be that which is constructive and that which is in the best interest of all people. If you truly care for Israel, please, please, please listen to the cry of the Palestinian people. And if you care about justice for Palestinians, please do not ignore the suffering and the legitimate fear and the devastation that Israelis are experiencing, particularly in this great moment. As the world responds, we are hearing increased attacks against Jews, anti-Semitic incidents, escalations in cities. I think I might have mentioned this yesterday. Please stand up against any hatred, any bigotry. To stand in solidarity with someone who is suffering does not mean that you are not advocating for justice for someone else. And so that's my plea this evening. So pray for peace. Thank you for so many who've checked in with us, who've offered us words of encouragement, who are praying alongside of us, who are sending us support. We're grateful for those who support our work. We educate, we seek to elevate voices in the Middle East. We advocate on Capitol Hill. We have been diligent and will continue to be in seeking our meetings with the White House, the State Department, in Congress. And so we will work diligently and continue to hold on to the hope that peace is possible, peace for all people. So blessings to you, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for your solidarity, and may we not give up hope in the midst of these challenging times.